This image looks down the middle of an open road with clouds in the sky and open landscape on either side of the road. Figure 11. One business ethic starts right where you are and leads you down the road of life with a set of standards and rules to follow. Credit, modification of We're on the Road to Nowhere by Mark Dalmolder/Flickr, CC by 20. Chapter Outline. 11. One Business Ethics in an Evolving Environment. 11. 2. Committing to an ethical view. 11. 3. Becoming an ethical professional. 11. 4. Making a difference in the business world. Even though they are business decisions, the choices we make at work can be personal in that they begin with our use of conscience. Just as the human body requires nourishment and care, so the conscience needs attention. Developmental psychologists have long understood that the formation of conscience and the emergence of an individual in whom being and doing are comfortably aligned take place over time. There are no shortcuts. Imperfection, self-doubt, and mistakes are part of the process. But what counts in life, including our choice of profession as well as the way we live our personal lives, is the manner in which we apply wisdom, education, and experience in forming the decisions we make, and in becoming the person we wish to be. Facing the right direction may be difficult at first, but with each decision toward wholeness, the path becomes a little easier to tread. The reverse is also true. When we neglect or ignore our conscience, it becomes more difficult for us to turn around. This final chapter explores the process of becoming a professional with an unshakable ethical stance in a changing world. Where do you stand on your own path in life? And more important, which direction are you facing? Figure 11. 1. In which direction will your choices regarding your work and career take you? Not only does the world seem to have shrunk, but the 21st century pace of change seems to have sped up time itself. As the world becomes smaller and faster and companies adapt their practices to fit new conditions, the core of business ethics that guides corporate behavior remains the same, directed, as always, by shared values and morals as well as legal restraints. What happens when these are ignored? An example follows. Rajat Gupta grew up in India, earned an MBA from Harvard, and prospered for years as managing director of McKinsey & Company, a preeminent management consulting firm. A respected business leader and co-founder of the Indian School of Business and the American Indian Foundation, Gupta served on many corporate and philanthropic boards. Gupta was commended by people who knew him as a person who helped others. He was very active in providing medical and humanitarian relief to the developing countries. Born to humble circumstances, he became a pillar of the consulting community and a trusted advisor to the world's leading companies and organizations. One according to the Securities Exchange Commission, however. In 2009, Gupta provided hedge fund manager and longtime friend Raj Rajaratnam with insider information about investor Warren Buffett's agreement to purchase shares in Goldman Sachs, an investment bank for which Gupta served as a corporate director. Gupta was convicted of felony securities fraud relating to insider trading, 3 counts, and conspiracy, 1 count, and sentenced to 2 years in jail plus $5 million in fines. 2. He had chosen to violate both business ethics and the law, as well as breaching his fiduciary duty as a corporate director. When corporate managers follow codes of conduct in a virtuous fashion, the outcome is positive but tends not to make the news. That is not a bad thing. We should value ethical behavior for its own sake, not because it will draw media attention. Unethical behavior, on the other hand, is often considered newsworthy, as were the crimes of Rajat Gupta. In discussing his case, the 7 Pillars Institute for Global Finance and Ethics, an independent, nonprofit think tank based in Kansas City, Missouri, that helps raise public awareness about financial ethics, said, "As a true professional, the good manager strives to achieve a moral excellence that includes honesty, fairness, prudence, and courage. 3. These are some of the virtues ethical players in the corporate world display. Respected businesses and managers adhere to a well-thought-out vision of what is ethical and fair. The primary purpose of business ethics is to guide organizations and their employees in this effort by outlining a mode of behavior that proactively identifies and implements the right actions to take, ones that avoid lapses in judgment and deed. For instance, as we saw in defining and prioritizing stakeholders, identifying the needs and rights of all stakeholders, not just of shareholders, is a useful first step in fair and ethical decision-making for any business organization. The box that follows describes what happened when General Motors forgot this. Cases from the real world. General Motors, failure to consider stakeholders. General Motors, GM, has struggled with its brands and its image. Over the years, it has jettisoned some of its once popular brands, including Oldsmobile and Pontiac, sold many others, and climbed back from a 2009 bankruptcy and reorganization. The automaker was hiding an even bigger problem, however. The ignition switch in many of its cars was prone to malfunction, causing injury and even death. The faulty switches caused 124 deaths and 273 injuries, and GM was finally brought to federal court. In 2014, the company reached a settlement for $900 million and recalled 26 million cars. The case exemplifies the tension between the concept that the only goal of business is to profit, so the only obligation that the business person has is to maximize profit for the owner or the stockholders on one hand, and the ethical obligations a company owes to its other stakeholders on the other. For GM's failure to consider its stakeholders and consumers, when choosing not to report the potential for malfunction of the ignition switches, led to an ethical breakdown in its operations and cost the company and its customers dearly. In addition, by treating customers as only a means toward an end, the company turned its back on a generation of loyal buyers. Critical thinking. What virtues and values shared by its longtime customers did General Motors betray by failing to disclose an inherent danger built into its cars? How do you think that betrayal affected the company's brand and the way car buyers felt about the firm? How might it have affected its shareholders' views of GM? At first glance, you might not see many parallels between the purchase of a flask of wine in an ancient Greek marketplace and your online purchase of a week's worth of groceries with a single click. In both cases, however, and throughout all the generations in between, buyers and sellers would agree that customers are entitled to be treated with honesty and accorded fair value for their money. Business leaders should approach ethical issues with the same sense of the permanence of ethical values. Technological innovation has changed the business environment and our lives, but it does not change the basis on which we make ethical business decisions. It does, however, cause us to expand the application of our ethical standards to new situations. For example, ethical principles are now being applied to online business. One reason is so that managers can navigate the privacy issues raised by the wholesale collection and sharing, intentional and otherwise, of customer data. The big ethical dilemmas of the 21st century have mostly centered on cybercrimes and privacy issues. Crimes such as identity theft, almost unheard of 20 years ago, remain a huge threat to anyone doing business online, a majority of the population. As a result, businesses face social and legal pressure to take every measure possible to protect customers' sensitive information. The rise in popularity of data mining and target marketing have forced businesses to walk a fine line between respecting customers' privacy and using their online activities to glean valuable marketing data. 5. Which values are at play on the two sides of this dilemma? Which stakeholders are priorities at companies like Facebook and Equifax? Another ethical dilemma arises for managers when government policy collides with a multinational corporation's global ethical standards. Although this clash can occur in many industries, the information industry offers a useful example. Google's stated mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. From its founding, says the company's website, our goal has been to develop services that significantly improve the lives of as many people as possible, not just for some, for everyone. 6. This may not hold true in all Google's markets, however. In 2006, Google launched a Chinese-language website in China and, contrary to its global ethical standards opposing censorship, agreed to Chinese government demands to eliminate links which the authorities found objectionable. For example, when a web surfer searched Tiananmen Square on Google's Chinese-language website in Los Angeles, reports of the 1989 demonstrations popped up. Not so if the same surfer entered the same words on Google's Chinese-language site in Beijing. At various times, either nothing or innocuous history came up. 7. In 2010, Google withdrew from China for a time, but it still wants to crack the huge market that country represents. It currently makes 2 applications available to Chinese users, but Gmail, YouTube, Google Maps, and its search engine remain largely banned by the government. 8. Does Google have an obligation to follow its own internal value of providing information to its users, or to respect China's policy of censorship? Is its current strategy in China coherent, or does it open the door for ethical lapses? 9. Consider one more of the many general ethical challenges managers of global businesses now face. The Cheesecake Factory, the California-based restaurant chain that prides itself on large portions and sumptuous desserts, opened a restaurant in Hong Kong in May 2017. Since then, the restaurant has been overwhelmed by customers intent on having not just a slice of cheesecake, but an American experience. The restaurant's menu is the same in all of its 200 stores around the world. Whether you are eating in Los Angeles, Hong Kong, or Dubai, you can order dishes with mozzarella, fontina, parmesan, cheddar, feta, or Swiss cheese, along with plenty of bacon, sour cream, and potatoes, figure 11.2. The interior decor is also the same wherever you go, guaranteeing a uniform experience. 10. This image shows a Cheesecake Factory restaurant located in a mall in Dubai, figure 11. 2. Does the Cheesecake Factory in Dubai or anywhere else in the world have an obligation to give customers what they want or what they need? Would compromise betray its mission? Would it disappoint customers? Credit: Cheesecake Factory Dubai Mall 3 by Krista/Flickr, CC by 20. Does it raise any ethical issues for the Cheesecake Factory not to tailor its offerings to local tastes and norms, as competing chains have done? People in Hong Kong, for example, normally eat a diet with fewer calories and dairy products, and that is much lower in fat and sugar than is typical in the United States. As one young customer at the Hong Kong outlet exclaimed, "Chinese people just cannot handle this much cheese." 11. Yet the company is offering a product the great majority of the public wants. Does it owe them anything in addition? That is, does the Cheesecake Factory have an obligation to give customers what they need, rather than what they want? In many parts of the world, there is pronounced desire for many things American, in particular, and Western, in general. Do Western companies have a primary mandate simply to meet this want, or do they have an obligation to deliver what is better for others? This is a core ethical consideration that has implications for companies far beyond simple marketing strategies and tactics. To impose certain products and services on other cultures because Western nations believe these would be best for them certainly would be a form of imperialism. However, for corporations to satisfy expressed wants could be applauded as an honorable response to customers identifying their own preferences. To preemptively decide what ought to be consumed by others, because it is for their own good, might be a form of paternalism. Ultimately, do customers or do companies have the right to make these decisions? You might answer that it would depend on the company and its products or services, and you would be right to see it in this light. What is unmistakable, however, is that these truly are decisions fraught with ethical dimensions. Business leaders must become accustomed to considering them in this way. Professional values and ethical reasoning are traits valued by all good employers. In fact, we have seen throughout this book that sound ethical decisions lead to higher profits in the long run. How do we develop the ability to make such decisions? We will see in the coming paragraphs that it takes discipline, commitment, and practice. Strong work and personal relationship matters too. Relationships matter. Workplace research indicates that employees are more likely to be unethical when they are dissatisfied with their jobs or see their superiors acting unethically. 12. How do relationships influence this equation? A good example set at the top, and the freedom to determine a comfortable work-life balance for oneself, all influenced by the organization's positive relationship with its employees, lead to a more ethical workplace. Consider Walmart's relationships with its many employees. Cases from the real world. Walmart save money, live better. With annual revenues of almost $500 billion, 2017, to 3 million employees and nearly 12,000 stores worldwide, Walmart is the largest private employer on the planet. Figure 11.3. 13, in fact, it is bigger than many national economies, including some in the developed world. In 2007, it replaced its long-standing slogan, always low prices, with save money, live better. 14. A map of the United States is titled, Largest Private Employers by State. States where the largest employer is Walmart are Arizona, Montana, Wyoming, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. States where the largest employer is the healthcare industry are Alaska, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. States where the largest employer is the state university system are California, New Mexico, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Maryland, and North Carolina. States where the largest employer is listed as other are Washington, Nevada, Colorado, Maine, and New Jersey. Figure 11. 3. According to Walmart, 90% of people in the United States live within 10 miles of one of its stores. 15. What does this say about the nature of for-profit business in the United States? What might such a map have looked like 100 years ago? Attribution. Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC by 4. 0 license. Walmart attempts to demonstrate virtuousness by holding itself out as a responsible corporation, concerned especially for the lower-income families that make up the majority of its customers. 16. But the company has experienced problems over the years, including lawsuits over illegal firing of employees, withholding of overtime pay and benefits, violations of foreign workers' rights, wage violations, violations of child labor laws, and failure to provide health coverage where and when applicable. 17. Thousands of Walmart's U.S. employees are also reported to be receiving public assistance to make ends meet. 18. Meanwhile, the Walton family, operators of the retailer that purports to help people live better, recently made $12.7 billion in a single day. 19. Critical thinking. If you were an upper-level manager at Walmart, what kinds of decisions would you expect to make regarding the company's challenges? As a Walmart manager, how would you view the company's relationships with its stakeholders, including its employees? How would that view guide your decision-making? As a company executive, would you try to increase employee benefits? Why or why not? Where does a case like Walmart's leave us? If a corporation with 2-3 million employees globally has reason to be concerned that at least some are dissatisfied with the job and may have witnessed some degree of unethical management behavior, the firm might also need to assume that some of those employees could choose to act unethically in the course of any business day. Of course, no job is perfect, And most of us experience some Monday mornings when we do not necessarily want to go into the office or exert the energy to be productive. And a company that provides high-quality goods to consumers at relatively low prices should get at least some credit for treating consumers fairly and ethically. It remains true, however, that any firm that wishes its employees to act ethically in the workplace must develop managers who model such behavior consistently toward all the company's stakeholders. No other single act on the part of business leaders is as important as this in fostering ethical behavior on the part of employees. Using values to make hard choices. According to the logic of the market, each of us is a commodity with specific assets, such as education, training, and job experience. But we are more than commodities, and what moves us are values. Can you identify your core values and imagine how you might live them in the workplace? Figure 11. 4. We'll return to this question at the end of the chapter. This image shows a row of 6 doors along the wall of an empty room. Figure 11. 4. Which values are important to you? Which will you choose to act on in your career? Credit. Modification of Doors Choices. Choose Open Decision by Kimono/Pixabay, CC0. To make the difficult decisions that come with career, personal life, and the balance between both, we must identify our personal values. Values provide us with the why for doing what we do. As an entrepreneur, for instance, you may find yourself working nonstop, dealing with emergency phone calls at 3:00 a.m., and doing a great deal of soul-searching about the direction and culture of your new venture. These tasks collectively might serve as impediments to happiness unless they truly reflect your underlying values. The role of loyalty. Customers often remain loyal to a brand because of its appearance, functionality, or price. Companies want loyal customers like these and will go to great lengths to keep them. These relationships are external relationships between the company as an organization and its customers as a group. Internal relationships exist among people, including among managers, employees, suppliers, and distributors. The loyalty that forms good internal relationships and enables us to rely on one another to do our work is a matter of trust and develops over time. Although it may be tested by rivalry, resentment, misunderstanding, and personality or other conflicts, without such trust, a company cannot function properly. However, as we have seen, loyalty between employee and employer is a two-way street. The organization takes the first step by hiring a candidate in whom it will invest time, training, and money, and whose success it will reward with recognition, raises, and bonuses. No employer wants to spend time and money nurturing new talent only to see people leave for another firm. Therefore, it falls to the new professional, in turn, to decide whether his or her values align with those of the organization, and if so, to demonstrate a commitment to grow with the company over time. Achieving such clarity about your career goals, the type of company you would be proud to work for, and your vision of your future self requires some self-scrutiny. In the process, you will further clarify your personal and ethical values and start to become an ethical professional. Professionalism is the conduct, aims, or qualities that characterize or mark a profession or professional person. It implies there is a quality of workmanship or service, but in reality, it's more about ethical behavior in the workplace. Every organization knows that a professional and ethical reputation is the difference between success and failure, and they seek to keep those staff who are the most professional. 20. Ethical professionals work for companies whose values align with their own. How do you evaluate a company to see whether it is a good occupational fit and one that will allow you to live your ethical values every day? Finding the right fit. Ethics has become a major consideration for young people in their selection of work and career. The following observation about young British workers applies to their counterparts in the United States as well. There's a quiet revolution happening, but it's not about pay, hours, or contracts. It's a coup d'etat led by the nation's young, politically engaged job seekers who demand employers enshrine values and ethics in their business model, not just profit. 21. Many job seekers want to feel that what they are doing is not just making money, but making a difference. That is, contributing to the company in unique ways that reflect their core values, conscience, and personality. They believe an individual has worth beyond his or her immediate work or position. Many modern companies thus try to give greater weight to the human cost of decisions and employee happiness. They know that, according to studies, employees in companies that work to build and maintain ethical workplace cultures are more financially successful and have more motivated, productive employees. 22. The decision whether to transfer someone from Boston to Salt Lake City, for instance, would now likely include the employee from the beginning and consider the impact on family members and the employee's future, in addition to the needs of the company. This was not always the case, and there are several reasons for the change. The first is that satisfied employees are more productive and feel greater commitment to the organization. 23. Second, there are more options for job seekers, which gives them more freedom to choose a company for which to work. When we graduate from school, or whenever we are thinking about changing jobs, we are matching three things in deciding on our vocation. The job market, are there jobs and opportunities? Our skills, do I have the right skills to succeed in a particular job? And our passions or beliefs, what do I want to do? With the concept that worthwhile work can be found in working in a corporate culture that respects its workers and their personal lives. You may work where management is supportive and workers thrive and advance. But you can also find yourself working in a toxic environment where human dignity is torn down every day, and responding to one's family commitments is regarded as weaknesses. 24. Many business journals report annually on how highly employees rate their workplaces, figure 11. 5. For example, you can consult Fortune's annual list of 100 best companies to work for, which you can search by such factors as diversity, compensation, and paid time off. You can also consult specialized lists such as Forbes, 100 best workplaces for women and black enterprises, 50 best companies for diversity. This bar chart is titled Best U.S. Employers as ranked by employees. The left side lists employers and the bar extends to the right, with a ranking for each company out of 10. From the best-ranked company down, the chart shows Costco with 9.58, Google with 9.57, REI with 9.53, Memorial Hermann Health System with 9.45, United States Automobile Association with 9.42, MD Anderson Cancer Center with 9.40, Penn Medicine with 9.34, Mayo Clinic with 9.34, City of Austin with 9.31, and Wegmans Food Markets with 9.30. Figure 11. 5. With insurance coverage for part-time workers, higher than industry average pay, and an overall employee satisfaction rating of 9.58 of a possible 10. Costco is often rated the best large employer to work for by Forbes and Statista. It is not just a generous employer, it is efficient too, operating on a profit margin that meets the norm in the retail grocery business. Attribution. Copyright Rice University, OpenStax, under CC by 4.0 license. A third reason more companies are considering what truly makes employees happy is that even more than loyalty, employees appear to value the freedom and responsibility to act as moral agents in their own lives. A moral agent is someone capable of distinguishing right from wrong and willing to be held accountable for his or her choices. The exercise of moral agency includes making a judgment about the alignment of personal and corporate conscience. Rather than jumping at the first job offer, moral agents assess whether the values expressed by the organization conform with their own, while recognizing that there is no perfect job. Even the most ethical organizations make mistakes, and even the most corrupt have managers and workers of integrity. Figure 11. 6. This is why the right fit is more likely to be a job in which you can grow or that itself will change in a way that allows you to find greater meaning in it. This image shows a hand-painted sign that says, "Abuse of power comes as no surprise." Figure 11. 6. Abuse of power may not come as a surprise, but it should not be business as usual. A firm should balance profitability with responsibility to society in a way that lifts the communities and neighborhoods of which we are part. Credit. Modification of Lowe's Angels Women's March, Unsplash, by Samantha Sophia / Wikimedia Commons, public domain. It's not about the money, is it? You may follow a professional vocation that offers low pay or low status, but yields non-tangible rewards, such as nonprofit work, nursing, or teaching. Or you may find a position that pays a great deal and offers job security but leaves you feeling unhappy or unfulfilled. For some professionals, these might include law, accounting, dentistry, or anything else. The point is that occupations with high compensation and a certain stature do not always infuse their holders with the greatest psychological and emotional rewards, and it is different for each of us. In the best of all worlds, you might embark on a well-paying career that helps others or contributes a much-needed good or service to society. Finding such work is easier said than done, of course, because the aim of most jobs is not to help people find meaning or happiness. Where these do occur, they are often ancillary effects of work, whose real purpose is the profitability without which there would not be any jobs at all. Also consider the gap between the purpose of the business and the purpose of the individuals in it. Except in a few startups, these purposes are not identical. Even artists, musicians, and independent practitioners who derive great meaning from their work are not immune to the frustrations over money or career that affect everyone else. It has been estimated, however, that the amount of money needed to be happy is not actually that much, at least by Western standards, although it is well above the poverty line. 25. Most people find themselves somewhere in the middle in terms of satisfaction and pay. Finding the proper balance between the two for you is taking a step on the way to your growth as a professional. You will make that assessment not once but throughout your career as you move in and out of jobs. Even if it turns out to be the best decision of your life, the choice to work for a company because of its mission, leadership, or cultural values should be intentional and based on sufficient knowledge of the company and yourself. To be appreciated for your contributions in the workplace, to work with congenial colleagues, or to provide a product or service of which you are proud might rival money as your most intrinsic motivator at work. Studies attest to this, and, as professionals of integrity, we must each decide for ourselves how strong a benefit salary alone is in the jobs we select. Link to learning. Watch the TEDx presentation, Money Can Buy Happiness, about money and its relationship to happiness to learn more. The role of ethical top leadership. As you consider your future path, perhaps leading toward a leadership role, keep in mind that perhaps the most effective way ethical behavior is learned in a company is through the modeling of that behavior by senior executives and others in leadership positions. This modeling sets what is known as tone at the top. Employees may already have a personal moral code when they join an organization, but when they see key figures in the workplace actually living out the ethical values of the company, they are more likely to follow suit and take ethics seriously. Leaders, ethical behavior is especially important in emerging fields like artificial intelligence, where questions of safety, bias, misuse of technology, and privacy are raised daily. 26. It is not enough to offer codes of conduct, training, reporting, and review programs, no matter how thorough or sophisticated, if management does not adhere to or promote them. These are tools rather than solutions. The solutions come from leaders using the tools and showing others how to do the same. This takes practice, reinforcement, and collaboration at all levels of an organization. The result will be a culture of ethics that permeates the company from top to bottom. Even leaders can falter, as the following box demonstrates. Also read the stories of 10 ethical leaders in the appendix profiles in business ethics. Contemporary thought leaders, cases from the real world. Swanson's Rule 1, don't plagiarize. Bill Swanson, former CEO of the defense contractor Raytheon, became well known for publishing a booklet entitled Swanson's Unwritten Rules of Management, which included 33 brief maxims for achieving success in business and cultivating a virtuous life in the corporate world. 27. The list included items like the famous waiter rule, which held that you can judge a person's character by the way he or she treats those in subservient positions. Swanson was hailed as a sage of modern business, whose rules had saved companies like Czar Entertainment and Panera Bread from making bad hiring decisions. 28. Then, it was discovered that he had plagiarized the list from several sources. 29. The booklet was discontinued, and Swanson's compensation and retirement package was modified downward. 30. As in similar cases of ethical lapse, however, the greatest damage was to his reputation, despite an otherwise distinguished 42-year career. 31. Critical thinking. Does this case surprise you? Why or why not? What do you think is the effect on a company's employees of unethical behavior at the top? Ethics matter not merely because acting unethically will end in a compliance problem or public relations nightmare, but because ethics is a way of life, not a hurdle to overcome. Moreover, the benefit of ethical behavior can grow over time so that a company begins to attract other ethical professionals and develops a reputation for honesty, integrity, and dependability. In a globally competitive world, these are not inconsequential factors. In an ethical workplace, employee satisfaction creates more loyalty to the company and morale improves because employees and managers feel they are part of an effort they can be proud of. Business performance picks up in ways ranging from higher earnings per share to increased customer retention to more satisfied employees. Consider the net income of two corporations that, as of 2018, have appeared on 11 consecutive annual lists of the world's most ethical companies as determined by the Ethisphere Institute, https://ethisphere.com. The first is United Parcel Service, UPS, founded in 1907, which earned net income of $4.91 billion in 2017. 32. The second is Xerox, founded in 1906, which earned net income of $195 million in 2017. 33. Notice the staying power of these two companies as well. Each is more than a century old and has a global presence. To test the consumer confidence these corporations evoke, consider your own opinion of how reputable they are. Ask your friends and family too. Again, employee loyalty, a positive work environment, and strong financial performance are not accidents. They are the result of intentional efforts on the part of leadership and board members who provide ethical vision and a plan for execution to all stakeholders. Ethical business need not be a zero-sum game with winners and losers. It can create situations in which everyone wins. Is there a more attractive environment for those just starting out in their careers? To be part of something profitable, responsible, and individually uplifting justifies all the work required to get there. On what will you base your professional identity? Do you believe an employer's enlightened self-interest is enough to ensure the ethical behavior of employers and employees? Or do you embrace the critical importance of individual ethical choice in making our organizations, our professions, and our culture serve all of humanity? 34. As attractive as high salary and comfortable lifestyle are to many, the life of a true professional is guided less by the desire to amass material goods than by a willingness to adhere to a code of ethical behavior and make the sometimes selfless decisions that protect the public and the corporation from misdeeds. In ideal form, that code of behavior is an expression of everything we have covered in this text regarding virtue, character, commitment, resilience, and the use of professional skills and training for the benefit of others. As 1st century BCE Jewish religious leader Rabbi Hillel is said to have put it, "If I am not for myself, then who will be? And if I am only for myself, then what am I? And if not now, when?" Today, it is often said that what counts at the end of a career is not how much money we made or how high up the corporate ladder we climbed. Rather, the real test is the difference we made, whether we have helped others or succumbed to motives such as greed and hubris, excess pride. Hubris creates the delusion that we are above the law and will never get caught. It has been used to justify many ruthless decisions whose sole criterion, in the end, is the potential for personal gain. This book has provided many examples on which to reflect about whether taking this short-term view actually benefits the company. In fact, hubris has ruined many lives and taken down a number of companies. Some, like Enron and the Ranos, were once touted as icons of efficiency and ethical leadership. Identifying your values and mission. The values we choose to honor are the essence of ourselves, and we carry them with us wherever we live, work, and play. As we noted, the career you choose should reflect your values, whether you work at a for-profit or non-profit organization, at Wells Fargo Bank or Doctors Without Borders, a medical rescue organization. It also is possible that you might work for a for-profit company and volunteer extensively on your own or on behalf of your firm in the nonprofit sector. Whatever path your career takes, it remains important not to let your well-considered values be diminished by others who do not prize loyalty or industriousness. For instance, your career is not a contest in which the person who finishes with the biggest portfolio or fastest jet skis wins anything other than an empty prize. It is far better to treat others with integrity and respect, and be surrounded by the true emblems of a successful career: family, friends, and colleagues who will attest to the dignity with which you have worked. In the final analysis, if you achieve a life of honor, then you have won. How do you keep personal values like integrity, fairness, and respect close at hand? The best way is by writing them down, prioritizing them, and fashioning them into a personal mission statement. Most companies have mission statements, and people can have them too. Yours will guide you on your path, clear away distractions on the road, and help you correct any missteps. It should be flexible too, to account for changes in yourself and your goals. Your mission statement is not a global positioning system, so much as a compass that guides you toward discovering who you are and what drives you. Figure 11. 7. This image shows a person's hand holding a compass. Figure 11. 7 professionals need to develop a personal mission statement to avoid straying from the path they have set for themselves. A personal mission statement can serve as an ethical compass, guiding an individual through his or her professional and personal life. Credit: modification of Adventure Compass Hand Macro by unknown/Pixabay, CC0. Let us write your mission statement. Because it will reflect your values, start by identifying a handful of values that matter most to you. You can do this by answering the questions in Table 11. 1. You may also find it beneficial to keep a journal and update your answers to these questions regularly. Identifying your values. 1. Of all the values that matter to you, e.g., honesty, integrity, loyalty, fairness, honor, hope, list the 5 most important. 2. Next, write down where you believe you learned each value, e.g., family, school, sports team, belief, community, work. 3. Write a real or potential challenge you may face in living each value. Be as specific as possible. 4. Commit to an action in support of each value. Again, be specific. Table 11. 1. Now you can incorporate these values into your mission statement, which can take the form of a narrative or action. There are many formats you can follow. See the link to Learning Box. but the basic idea is to unite your values with the goals you have set for your life and career. You can, for instance, link the benefit you want to create, the market or audience for which you want to create it, and the outcome you hope to achieve. 35. Keep your statement brief. Richard Branson, founder of the Virgin Group, wants to have fun in my journey through life and learn from my mistakes. Denise Morrison, CEO of Campbell Soup, aims to serve as a leader, live a balanced life, and apply ethical principles to make a significant difference. 36. Your own statement can be as simple as, for instance, to listen to and inspire others, or to have a positive influence on everyone I meet. Link to learning. Read this blog, The Ultimate Guide to Writing Your Own Mission Statement, by Andy Andrews, for more information about creating a personal mission statement. Watch the TEDx talk, How to Know Your Life Purpose in 5 Minutes, about the self and identifying values to learn more. Putting your values and mission statement to the test. There may be no better place to put personal values and mission to the test than in an entrepreneurial role. Startups cannot be run on concepts alone. More than almost any other kind of venture, they demand practical solutions and efficient methods. Entrepreneurs usually begin by identifying a product or service that is hard to come by in a particular market, or that might be abundantly available, but is overpriced or unreliable. The overall guiding force that inspires the startup then is the execution of the company's mission, which dictates much of the primary direction for the firm, including the identification of underserved customers, the geographic site for a headquarters, and the partners, suppliers, employees, and financing that help the company get off the ground and then expand. In a brand new organization, though, where does that mission come from? The founder or founders of a firm develop the company's mission directly from their own personal beliefs, values, and experience. This is particularly true for nonprofits. Sometimes the inspiration is as simple as the recognition of an unmet need, such as the rising global demand for food. Bertha Jimenez, an immigrant from Ecuador who was studying engineering at New York University, could not help but be concerned that while craft breweries were riding a wave of popularity in her adopted city, they were also throwing away a lot of barley grain that still had nutritional value, but that no one could figure out how to reuse. After a few attempts, Jimenez and 2 friends, also immigrants, finally hit on the idea of making flour out of this barley grain, and thus was born the Queens, New York-based startup Rise Products, whose website proclaims that upcycling is the future of food. Rise Products does not only supplies local bakers and pasta makers with its protein and fiber-packed super barley flour for use in products from pizza dough to brownies. It has also sent product samples on request to Kellogg, Whole Foods, and Nestlé, as well as to a top chef in Italy. Jimenez and her fellow co-founders say, in the long term, we can bring this to countries like ours. We want to look at technologies that won't be prohibitive for other people to have. 37. If we were to diagram the relationship between founders' values and the entrepreneurial mission, it would look something like this. Personal values, arrow pointing right; personal mission statement, arrow pointing right; entrepreneurial mission. Just as a personal mission statement can change over time, so can the company mission be adapted to fit changing circumstances, industry developments, and client needs. TOMS Shoes is another entrepreneurial firm founded to fill a need. For every pair sold, the company donates a pair of shoes to a child without any. Over time, TOMS Shoes has expanded its mission to also offer eyeglasses and improved access to clean water to people in developing countries. It calls itself the One-for-One Company, promoting founder Blake Mykoski's promise that with every product you purchase, TOMS will help a person in need. 38. The point is, if you have clarified your personal values and mission statement, there is almost no limit to the number of ways you can apply them to your business goals and decisions to do good and do well in your career. The purpose of business is relationships, and the quality of relationships depends on our acceptance of self and concern for others. These are developed through the virtues of humility on the one hand and courage on the other. The demanding but essential task of life is to practice both. In that way, perhaps only in that way, can we be truly human and successful business professionals.